All right, welcome to Biz Bites with Jake. Hey, I'm super excited today. This is a big one for me. I'm excited to have Jake Dunlap on the show from SKALED. Jake, welcome to Biz Bites with Jake. Hey, man.
Hey, what's going on, man? I'm really pumped. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, I've been following your content for, as long as I've been on the social media track, which has only been about 4 or 5 months now, but really dialed into you. And
all right.
Love the stuff that you've been putting out. So
appreciate it.
Your company, you've worked with the likes of Gary Vee and Huffington Post rating for them and Forbes, and then obviously all of your customers from Microsoft, LinkedIn, Insightly, Jive. So
yeah.
Why don't you give a little bit of background on SKALED and kind of what your company's all about and where it started, and I'd love the audience to hear a little bit about it.
Yeah, so I'll go back a little before that. So my background, I graduated, went into sales almost immediately out of school, found out that I was naturally I think I was naturally good at it. But really, when I was probably in my late 20s, I realized what a science sales actually was. It really, I was lucky enough to go to a company that really had a kind of process and methodology, and really started to take kind of my natural ability and realize that, man, wait, like if you just do this right order of operations and you do these things, wow, like it equals sales. It's a very interesting, kind of learning curve for me early in my career, just like how much of a process sales actually is. And so from that, I was able to parlay that into, various leadership roles as a vice president of sales at Glassdoor. I built the sales organization there. We went from 0 to $1 million in MRR in a little over a year. Then went over to be the VP of sales at a startup in New York. And what I realized is that when companies are growing, and now we have really two different company types, you need rapidly different things as you grow. And it may, or you just need them for a certain place and time, right? You don't need a Salesforce admin full time. You need them for 2 days a week for 4 months, and then you're kind of good. You need the sales ops. So what I realized is that you either had sales trainers who would come in and do a shot in the arm, and that doesn't drive change. Mm-hmm. Or you had consultants who'd come in and tell you a bunch of shit that you already knew. And then you'd say, great, how am I going to execute this thing? And so I really saw the opportunity in the market to do what I love, which is building and scaling revenue teams, and provide that kind of level of expertise at different stages. And so fast forward to today, we have two client types. So we still have that kind of growth stage company that's, rapidly growing, and they're trying to build out replicability in their lead gen process, their sales process, their account growth process, infrastructure, comp plans, all those things. And we serve in kind of a mix of either project-based work or fractional, staff, right? Leadership, sales ops, and sales enablement individuals. And we've got really a world-class team of people that come in and partner with the business. And now, you mentioned some of the Microsofts, the LinkedIn's, the ADPs, the Ultimate Softwares. Now a lot of larger companies are trying to innovate as well. And so a lot of the work that we're doing with them is helping them to, look at this with a fresh set of eyes. There's over 1,500 sales technologies that didn't exist 5 years ago. And so if you're still running your team, and they're running a couple different things, they're not using different tech, we're talking 20, 30% efficiency increases you can see. And so, really those are our two client types. It's that rapid growth company who needs that outside partner to come in and really get tactical in the trenches with their team and get shit done. Or it's a much bigger organization that's trying to bring innovation in and really bring a modern methodology to their, demand gen or sales process.
So how right now with SKALED, what are you seeing because of the COVID? And we're going to get into some organic sale growth, which is a real hot topic right now. But with your organization with COVID, what are you kind of seeing right now from the enterprise side? What are the challenges some of these organizations are seeing?
Yeah, well, if we talk purely about enterprise sales, it's interesting. So I'm also a partner in a venture fund called Stage 2 Capital. And we had our LP meeting, that was 2 or 3 weeks ago. And so I sat in on the room that was all enterprise leaders talking. These guys are running, $500 million to $1 billion plus, businesses. And, I think a lot of people are trying to figure out, there's kind of that itch for a lot of people, okay, when are we going to get back in the field, get back to face-to-face? But then you also start to realize that we were already on a trajectory of moving inside. It was already the stats. I remember Salesforce State of Sales report from 2016, 17. It's the amount of companies that are increasing their inside sales teams versus field was large. And I think this has just accelerated that. But really what it's done is it's educated buyers on how to use tech. Half of the issue was, Nancy, the CHRO, or Rick, the CFO, who's, 55, 60, They just weren't used to using Zoom, like Microsoft Teams. And so what this actually has done is educated the buyer on how to use tech, which is just as valuable as, the team being able to use it. So I think, look, man, I think field teams are going to shrink pretty big time, man. That's my prediction, is that at the enterprise level, you just don't need it. People are closing 6-7 figure deals and never meeting someone face to face. And I just don't. And I think buyers more and more, we've already been trending that way. They don't give a shit about the wine and the golf and the steaks. You might, because you're trapped in your house with your 2 kids and you're like, I can't wait to get out on the field again. But guess what? The rest of the people are like, I don't know if I want to do that. Right. So I think it's going to be interesting. Well, we have kind of a resurgence in going back and doing in person. Sure. Are we 6 to 12 months away? Yeah. And I think in the meantime, though, I think we're going to get really good at doing enterprise deals via Zoom and Microsoft Teams.
Do you think they're finding more productivity by doing it stationary? You can get more calls, more objectives completed in a day versus if you're on the road driving from point A to point B?
I think so. Yeah. The key to me is that it's now what we've got to work on is making sure these guys have the skills, that these guys have the skills of what it means to do some of that work that would be done face to face virtually. And I feel like that is the next hurdle that we've got to solve in the next year and a half, is like, or you're going to have a certain experience group within the population that, ageism is very real in tech already, right? It's already very real. That these men and these women who've been out there carrying a bag, they're going to have to learn a new skill set. They're going to learn how to be productive, how to use Slack, how to use these other techs that have came out. So I think, yes, I think you should see a pretty, decent clip in productivity, assuming that we can level up skills to some extent.
So let's talk organic growth. There's a lot of content. I know you have a lot of content, but your company does both inside, outside, and then obviously you guys have the fill the funnel traditional type of prospecting, as well as helping out existing organic growth cross-sell opportunities. Yeah. That's really been a focus for me. That's been a lot of my background, which is existing territories for existing sales professionals, and there's not a tremendous amount of prospecting, although new customer acquisition is always a part of it.
Sure.
But let's talk numbers, because how important, I'm just going to ask you straight up, how important is it for sales professionals to track the numbers, and what are the key matrices that they should be looking at here?
I think this is a great question. So is it important for sales? Yes, of course. And I think that where we're trying to push more and more of our clients is to move away from a concept of purely tracking activity and moving toward what we would call a first outcome, which would be a meaningful conversation, or you can call it a connected meaning. I don't really care what you call it. A meaningful conversation is really a mix of, did I talk to the right person that's agreeing to set up a meeting with me, or did I get connected with someone who's, putting me in touch with the right people? Right. So what I would like to see is, because we're using sites like LinkedIn more than ever, what I'd like to see is more organizations still having some minimums. And when I say minimums, I mean minimums, not like, I kid you not. I talked to a woman last week on an SDR team. I won't talk about the company. She was required to do 134 activities a day and make them relevant. And of those activities, I think I think it was between 20 to 30 personalized videos on top, like included in that activity. I'm like, what? What are we like? How is this? Like, I think what happened is this: we got a lot of shiny new tools that led us to do a lot more faster. Yeah. And we stopped to realize, a friend of mine, Richard Harris, and I stole this from him a few years ago, but we've got to start to focus on effectiveness over efficiency. Do you care about, but because as sales leaders, we've got to stop being lazy and stop just hitting the more button. The one button we know how to push in sales is more. Yeah, more. And I feel like in COVID in particular, we've defaulted to that as opposed to getting more clever, which is what we should be doing. We should have already been segmenting our buyers into not ready industries, maybe ready but need some pushing, and like things are thriving and they're doing really, really well. Yeah. COVID has just accelerated our need to have to do that. So I think, again, kind of to put a pen in this, it's that we need to start to focus on outcomes. right? I'm okay with like, hey, we need to make sure we're making 20 calls a day. That's fine. I'm okay with that, right?
Yeah.
But we also need to make sure that we're focusing on, is this person effective? Because humans are just like baseball lineups or hockey lineups or insert your sport, football. It doesn't really matter. You've got a 1-hitter who's really good at getting the job done this way. You've got a 4-hitter who's really good at doing it this way, and an 8-hitter. And I feel like too often we try to make everyone a number 3-hitter, and that's just not how it is. Whereas if instead you focus on average and on base percentage, and that's the ultimate factor, then you start to realize that if you focus on outcomes, people and still have some of those bare activity minimums, people have a way to find their best way to get from point A to point B.
Yeah, I mean, we could actually scale this right into a whole nother podcast about talent management and how to get the best out of somebody.
For sure.
That, everybody has different gifts and challenge and skill sets. But when you look at the metrics and how to measure success, what's your opinion from what a sales manager or sales leader should be knowing and communicating to their sales professional, and what a sales professional should know and be watching on their numbers? Yeah.
Well, what I'll do is I'll try to focus on maybe some numbers that people aren't focusing on that they should be.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I've always been a data person. Look, it took me 5.5 years to graduate from Missouri State University. I got a 2.9, I think like 2.98 GPA or something like that. But for whatever reason, I really like stats, and I don't know why, but I just gravitated toward it. And I always did really well in those courses. And my very first job out of college, I was working for the Tampa Bay Rays. I was actually working in sports and sales. And what I did after my first year is I did a scatter plot of every single inbound sale that came in that closed. And I identified gaps in times when people called in. It was like 11 to 11:20, like 2 to 2:30, 4 to 4:20, something like that. And the reason I did that is the inbound phone worked on a loop. And basically, if you made a dial, it would skip you and it would go to the next person, right? Next up. So what I realized is, and it was me and this other guy. I was already like top 1 or top 2 sellers. So I was already at like the pin, like I was already at the top. But what I realized is this: I'm just going to not make any cold calls during these periods. And I sat there for 2 weeks and just went, Tampa Bay Rays, this is Jake. Tampa Bay Rays, they all made cold calls. And then I feverishly made all my calls during those blocks when nobody was dialing in. And why? Because I had the data. And then people got pissed at me. Jake, that's messed up. I'm like, dude, I kid you not, I showed them the spreadsheet. I go, guys, this is why I'm doing it. Look at the spreadsheet. It shows the data, and people still kept doing the same thing. Like, you're idiots. Like you are consciously choosing to short circuit it. Now they fixed it after like a month. So that was a short-lived experiment. But the reason I'm telling this story is that as a rep, you got to know your own. This is your baseball card. This isn't, I don't like if my manager needs a dashboard, fantastic. So for me, the things that I would be looking at, it's very, very black and white to me, right? It's number of meaningful conversations to generate qualified opportunities. That's step 1. How many conversations do I need to have on a daily basis to get to my opportunities, goals, whatever it is? The other one, and there's actually 2 metrics in here that not enough salespeople are looking. Actually, I would say 5%. And sales leaders, this is for you too, is sales cycle in a vacuum is a worthless number. 60 days. Who cares? It's about average age in stage. If I was a rep, I would be laser focused on what stage are my deals going on, coupled with conversion percent, not average, this conversion percentage between stage.
Yeah.
So I would be micro focused on not my 60-day cycle that I'm spending 5 days here, 15 days here, 20 days here, 30 days here, whatever that looks like. So then I can start to pinpoint, what do I need to do to fix this by 5 days and increase my conversion by 10% from stage 2 to stage 3. And then I can go and isolate the problems and fix something.
Yeah.
So that's it. Average conversion percentage by stage, and average age in stage conversion metrics. That's what I'd be tracking. And I feel like too many salespeople and sales managers for their boss and directors for their boss and VPs for their boss, you're doing this for yourself. That's my Tampa story. I did this for myself. My boss didn't ask me to do it. I wanted to make more money and close more deals. So I track my metrics. Don't keep clean CRM data for your boss. Keep it for yourself.
Yeah.
So I just feel like there's tremendous opportunity that people, because it's tech, salespeople, they act like they're allergic to it. Whenever I very early on in my career realized that it could be a weapon to help me to be exponentially more effective than any of my peers.
Yeah. I mean, professionals keep track of their stats, right? That's how they can get better in certain areas of their expertise. So if sales leaders and sales team members aren't keeping track of their stats, then how can you improve?
Well, they're just tracking the final outcome. It's like, I generated X opportunities. I generated X deals. I track my flow to get from point A to point B. Yeah. Sales is a game of inches. It's a game of percentages. If I can track from that first conversation to a qualified opportunity, I can now start to isolate how to get better. If I can track from opportunity to close an average age in each stage and conversion, I now can optimize how to get better. Because I've got to tell you what I've seen consistently when we analyze this. There's a tool called Insight Squared that we'll use. You know what it looks like at the rep level? Like the average sales cycle looks beautiful. It's like this chart that says 60 days. Man, when you go down to the manager level, it looks like this. When you go to the rep level, it looks like Johnny is 20 days here, Susie's 5 days here. I mean, it is wild as you pinch and zoom in and you see those stats at the individual and at the team level, they are wildly different. So if I'm looking to coach my team, I need to know not that how do we cut the sales cycle to 60 days? It's how do I work with JK to get stage 3 down to 10 days? Because right now it's going long compared to his peers. Yeah. Or guess what? I can look at my own data and I see, God, how is Sally doing this? Sally has people in stage 4 for 6 days. I'm at like 15. I'm going to go sit down with Sally. I'm going to go fix the problem myself. I don't even need my boss to come and tell me because I know my own data. And I feel like it's keeping the record of how you got from point A to point B that allows you to be really effective, not just looking at point B, because there's so many micro variations that happen throughout that until you isolate the data, you won't be able to understand exactly what the cause of the outcome, which was the qualified opportunity of the sale was.
Yeah, 100%. So Biz Bites with JK is about relationships. We're going to take this opportunity to talk about the relationship between sales and marketing, because I think your article there that you wrote there, bridging the account-based gap between sales and marketing, was pretty powerful. Again, talking and trying to direct this towards the organic opportunities and cross-sell opportunities with existing customer base. How important is sales and marketing alignment? And what are you seeing right now with gaps in that with organizations, both small and enterprise?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you bring up a great point around organic. And that is the key term here. Marketing. I feel like marketing struggles to value organic because it's not, especially, and I'm going to talk about different channels and we can talk through it. So let's start with LinkedIn, just because I think LinkedIn's an important one. Mm-hmm. Most marketing departments, and I'm going to say, and I don't think that they quite realize that they're treating it like a throwaway. Most marketing departments treat social media like a throwaway. They treat it like, yeah, we post, we put stuff out there. They don't monitor engagement. They don't interact. They're not actually trying to make it happen. I can tell you right now, I run a 30-person consulting company. We are closing millions of dollars from LinkedIn and spending zero on paid. The opportunity to build a brand and the opportunity to actually interact with customers, with your exec team and your sales team, is ridiculous. I'll put some stats out there for you. LinkedIn's corporate page posted they post between 28 and 35 times a month. Every month, they have 6,500 individuals that share at least once. Let's say some of those people even share twice. That's 13,000 to 30.
Yeah.
The opportunity to leverage your employees on LinkedIn is, I think, one of the biggest missed opportunities for marketing. And let me tell you why I think it's missed. It's marketing, a lot of times is compensated on MQLs. And so, and not tied to revenue. So therefore, marketing at times is put in a hole, in a deficit where they have to focus all their time on a one-to-one conversion. We did this one thing, it equaled one widget. And I think that's wrong. I think in B2B, we've got to get back to appreciating marketing should be spending part of their time building brand and things that are going to drive leads and dollars in the future, right? And so I think the ways that you can start this process is, one, make sure marketing and sales compensation is aligned. That's literally at the macro level. If your head of marketing is compensated on MQLs and your head of sales is compensated on revenue, It's never going to happen for you.
Yeah.
Never going to happen. You can't have an aligned sales and marketing work. Now, if your head of marketing is compensated on revenue and your head of sales is compensated on revenue, you have everything aligned. Now, it doesn't mean you shouldn't have SLAs between the groups and SOPs that are ironclad. Inbound lead follow-up time. You better believe that that sales leader needs to be held accountable to that. But also, I want to encourage my marketing department to do what's right for the business, not what's right to look good on paper and to generate an MQL or an SQL, right? And so I feel like it starts with compensation. And then if you kind of take it a layer down, it's about getting marketing and sales aligned, that the goal is engage customers throughout the funnel, from the beginning to the middle to the end, and even through to renewal, which I think I feel like really marketing has just stopped giving any love to customer success, which I think is a massive mistake. But because again, guess what? What are the comped? MQLs. Net new MQLs. Why is marketing going to go spend time with your current customers if that's not how they're comped? Or what percent of your time, even though that's 85% of your revenue. So that's what I think you've got to do. I think you got to look at the macro. What are you doing at the executive level to align these two teams? Are you actually creating perverse incentives where you're actually encouraging these teams to not collaborate because, or you're creating like too much natural tension to where, they're not going to get aligned, where you could just free that up. And then I think at the frontline level, it's about sales doing a better job of helping to, give marketing the data they need to know what's working and what's not. And I think marketing being more aligned to, again, the end goal is X, and it could be late stage pipeline. I'm okay if it's not always deals, but it's got to be something that's not just a person raise their hand. And I feel like getting aligned around those two things is step one for everybody.
I think sales and marketing should share budgets and share the responsibility from an MQL and SQL success rate.
Share, yeah. I mean, to some extent, I think the goal is the goal, and so I'll just give you let's stay with the stats here. It's like, okay, let's say I'm spending, let's say I'm a bigger company. Well, let's say that I'm spending $25,000 a month on paid advertising, right? The number could be 100, it could be $1 million, doesn't really matter. Okay, $25,000 a month. That's equivalent. Let's say I'm not hiring these people in the Bay. Let's say I'm hiring them somewhere else. That's equivalent to about 4 SDRs and a manager, maybe 3 SDRs and a manager, or they'll call it like 4 and one's a team lead. It's just math. What generates more qualified opportunities? 4 humans or $25,000 on social and Google AdWords and other paid, or maybe an event or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I feel like that to me is how every organization should be looking at it. We like to just go outbound because it feels good. We're doing stuff, like we're going outbound. So what I do like is marketing and sales being aligned on and each channel is going to have different conversion metrics and cost per lead and, cost per converted opportunity. So I feel like that's where people have to get aligned and making sure that budget's allocated properly based on those details. So, that's obviously why they created kind of a CRO role, is to help to do that. But if you are a VP of marketing or a VP of sales, I think you can try to look at your business that way, because as a sales, there's no reward for you, building out a 40-person SDR team if it can be like an 8-person team that's only focused on the Uber enterprise, and you give all that $125,000 back to marketing and they just generate opportunities. Like that sounds a lot easier, right? Than I was talking to this guy, Chris Walker, who's active on LinkedIn. And I think Chris is trying to like abolish outbound, which I don't think will ever happen at the enterprise level. But he is correct that I think more and more people are sleeping on organic opportunities and better ways for marketing and sales to collaborate, and marketing taking more of the ownership of total opportunity creation, for sure. Yeah.
There it is right there. That's the bite I was hoping to hear, is marketing because I think they have to. I think I have this in my current organization where, marketing is relying on sales to do a lot of the LinkedIn posts, a lot of the social media presence, but I think that they got to be more responsible, and the more responsible they are on the presence of the brand and the exposure of the brand, the more success we're going to have on the sales side. Win-win.
Why don't I do? If I was in marketing, I would just be empowering the sales team. I would be like, guys, hey, don't forget to post like a random organic post today about our industry. Here's like 4 pieces of content. Don't share the link because that's going to kill your reach. Instead, like pull out some insights. Here's some insights for you. Like here's some different things from the article that you could use. Yeah. Marketing departments would do. The amount of opportunities, and again, you have to give it like 3 to 5 weeks for things to catch up as people. I don't think they quite can fathom the opportunity. Again, assuming your buyers are active on LinkedIn, which is, something you need to always vet too.
Yeah. So I know you're a big LinkedIn guy, social media presence. One bit of advice for sales individuals out there that are struggling with the confident level on getting onto social media.
Well, here's, if you're struggling for social media, I'm going to try to make this more tactical for you. And what I mean by that is this, if I went to you as a sales rep and I said, okay, you sell into human resources, okay? And I can put you in front of a room of 200 VPs of talent acquisition, and you get a chance to talk to them for 5 minutes. Would you do it? How about this, for 60 seconds, for a minute and a half, 2 minutes? How many sales reps would take that opportunity? Mm-hmm. All of your virtual hands are going in the air. That is what posting on LinkedIn is. Yeah. If you are consistently adding more individuals to your pipeline, so now my networking events, and every day all of my connections get a post, that is the exact same as me getting a free speaking spot at a networking event. And not only that, how many of you would fly across the country to go do that? A lot of you. So think about it that way. It makes it a lot more, I think it makes it a lot more tactical.
Love it, man. So listen, I know your time's valuable. I always finish with one question. Before I do that, give the audience a little bit of info where they can find you and all the goodies on where to get hold of Jake.
Definitely. So look, definitely check out, the team I think is doing a really good job of beefing up our insights page on SKALED. So SKALED.com. Go check out. We're putting out, multiple blog posts a week. We're putting out longer form content too. For me, you can find me on LinkedIn. It's just, / Jake Dunlap. Just, type in Jake Dunlap into the search. You'll find it pretty quick. And then, look, for us, it's anytime, if you're an organization out there, you're listening to this and you're like, look, we're having revenue challenges, or we're having, we're having challenges around how we drive meetings. We're having challenges around, converting leads. Please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to sit down, have the team sit down with you, spend, 30 minutes just talking through it. If it's a fit, fantastic. If not, I know that you'll get some value out of it. We're talking to hundreds, I'm probably talking to thousands of VPs of sales and CEOs every year. So I've got a pretty unique perspective on, kind of what people are doing that's new, cool, and interesting. And so I'm always happy to share those best practices. But I think LinkedIn, and then I definitely want more people to go check out the work that my marketing team's doing, because I think they're putting out a lot of really good stuff that's tactical. And I think that's what you're going to see whenever you follow my content and my teams. We try to stay out of the clouds and try to, as Gary Vee put it, get in the dirt, because I feel like that's what, I know when I was in sales in the front lines, that's what I wanted. I'm like, dude, don't give me the theory. Just tell me the play, man. I'll just go run the play. You're like, Jake, and so I think our team does a great job of that. So that's where to hit us up and when to find us.
Yeah. And I encourage everybody to go check it out. I mean, you're live with Jake and Friends is awesome too. So
thanks, man.
A lot of good stuff out there. We always finish with one quick question, man. This is, what would you give? You're a young guy, but if you could drive yourself back to when you were 20 years old, knowing everything you know today, knowing COVID was coming, everything, what kind of advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
I mean, the interesting part, I go back. So when I was 20, what was I doing? I think I was selling MCI WorldCom telemarketing in college. So, I would tell my 20-year-old self, start to get the experience now. I mean, I did it, but it was like, I guess somewhat by luck and chance, but because telemarketing paid really well, in college. So my advice is start thinking about developing skills now. Don't take, I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and I never really phrased it this way before, but I feel like it resonated. Take every job to learn to get better at a skill, not to collect a paycheck. For my first 7 years of job, forever, I took jobs to get as good as possible at that job and then move to the next role. Yeah. I think too many people get into the role and they're just like doing, they're just like going through the motions, they're doing. I was hungry. I was a student, so that's why I had done telemarketing for a year and a half and waited tables in college too for 2 years. So when I got into the real world, right, I was working 30 hours a week plus going to school full time. When I got into the real world, I destroyed these kids from Princeton, massacred these kids. Like I got promoted within a year and a half to like the top role within the sales organization in Tampa. And I was 24, right? And there are people that were in their like mid 30s, and I was just voracious. And I think it's because like I took the job to learn. I realized that life is a long game. So that's what I would say is that, are you doing things to learn skills, or are you doing it to check boxes? Don't do things to check boxes. It's the same 8 hours in the day, the same 10 hours in the day. Don't check the box. Learn, improve, get better.
I love it, man. Jake, listen, keep doing what you're doing. You're helping a lot of people out there, man. And I really appreciate you taking the time to coming on here. I really, really do. It's I've been following you for a long time. So thanks for doing it. And I wish you all the best, man.
Good, man. I appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.